Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about what to grow in February. If you're new to the channel, my name's Jason and I am a balcony gardener. So this video is going to be focusing on balcony gardens or container gardening. So hopefully by the end of this video you will know what to sow in February for your container gardens. Let's get straight into it. I'm going to break this up into three sections. So first off, we're going to be talking about what to sow in February for our indoor kitchen gardens. I'll talk a little bit on what to sow in February for vegetable garden. Then I'll finish it off with what flowers to sow in February. Now I am more than aware that actually there could be some people watching this video who don't possess any form of outside space at all. This is super common in city centres, more than you may actually believe. In fact, if you look at some of the buildings around me, they are sky-high skyscrapers with absolutely no outside space. But that doesn't mean that you can't grow anything. In fact, one thing that some of these tall buildings are really great at is having floor-to-ceiling windows, and that makes up some really great growing conditions. So let me share with you some of the plants that I'm going to be growing indoors on my indoor kitchen garden in February. First up, we have coriander. Now, coriander, whenever I buy it from the shop, it will unalive itself within a matter of weeks. It's really tricky. And with coriander, it's actually a cool weather crop. If we grow this plant from seed, it will become accustomed to the climate that it is growing in. Sometimes when we bring plants from the supermarket into our house, it's gone through so many different stages of its life that actually by the time it gets to your kitchen, it's had enough. So if we start some coriander indoors and we keep it on a windowsill or a shelf where it is not exposed to direct sunlight and high heat, we should see a little bit more stability in that plant. So I'm going to be sowing these in a video quite soon. Now the next plant that I'm going to be growing indoors for my kitchen garden is lemon balm. I absolutely love the smell and the taste from the leaves. It is a really beautiful lemony smell, and you can use the leaves as a tea. So I'm going to be growing some of these, and you know, if I so happen to be making some pims later on in summer, these leaves might come in handy. How does alcohol always find its way onto this channel? I just do not know. Ugh. Now this mess of a pot is thyme. This is on my indoor kitchen garden, and I think it's struggling a little bit. That's fine because I've actually been harvesting quite a bit. I've been including thyme in a lot of my cooking recently, and I think I've probably harvested a little bit too much. So once again, this was supermarket store-bought thyme, and it was doing really well until I started hacking away at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my own thyme indoors. The thing with thyme though is it takes, I can't believe I was just about to say that. Excuse me. It takes time for the... I don't know why you guys watch my channel.
So unprofessional.
It takes time for the seeds to... It takes time for the seeds to germinate. In fact, it takes 21 to 35 days to germinate. So I'm going to do my best to keep this pot alive. In the meantime, I'm going to be growing my own.
Keep it together, girl.
Hopefully, by the time this is finally kaput, I should be able to replace it with my brand new seeds that I've grown in February.
Oof, we got there.
You know, I just don't think that you can ever have enough basil. Now, I know that I've sown basil probably in the last few videos, but basil is just so awesome, and it's so versatile. You can use it in so many different ways. Now this variety is called cinnamon basil, and so I'm going to be doing what I did before with the last sets of basil. Is I'm going to grow some indoors for the indoor kitchen garden, but I'm also growing some ready for containers outdoors. Now in this part I've got some chives. I'm going to be sowing some chives indoors, and I'm going to be keeping some for my indoor kitchen garden, and once again some of these are going to be going out onto the cloud garden. Now chives are an awesome addition to your kitchen garden. The flavors once again are absolutely beautiful. But just like some of the other herbs that we've discussed today, the germination time can be pretty long. In fact, it can be up to 21 days to germinate. So once again, I'm going to get some of these chives in ready so that when spring finally arrives, I will have some plants that I can just pop outside onto my container garden. At the moment we are going through a storm here in the UK, so normally I'll try and get some filming done outside, but it doesn't really seem possible. I'm going to try and take you outside and let you see what it's like for yourselves. Wow, I almost got knocked over. I hope you guys don't mind. The rest of this video is going to have to be indoors. Now, before we even think about what to sow in February for our outdoor container gardens, we really need to think about our frost dates. I said it in the last video and I'll say it in this one too. It's so incredibly easy to get caught up in the idea of sowing our seeds, getting ourselves further ahead. But even like on a day like today, there is a lot of wind out there on my garden. Some of the plants that I've sown in January are really being tested outside on that garden, and the likelihood is that some of them may not survive. So what you don't want to do is get your hopes up, start a whole load of seeds, and then all of a sudden you get caught off guard by some bad weather, whether that be high winds, storms, or even snow and frost. I've done a what to sow series, but because I'm heavily invested in my gardening and I have this YouTube channel, for me I've had to go and create lots of space. So as you can see, I've got my growing rack behind me, but I've also got my kitchen garden, and I also have a greenhouse outside on the balcony garden. But for some of you, space is going to be an issue, and let me show you exactly what I mean by this. Now, one of the first veg that I'm going to be sowing in February is tomatoes. In fact, I've already gone ahead and done some just to show you guys. So in here, I've got tomatoes. Now, I'm still able to harvest tomatoes even though we are in February on my balcony garden right now. They are looking gorgeous. Now, as you can see, they are beginning to get their first set of true leaves, and they are looking stunning. What I should be doing is looking for the strongest ones, and anything that is looking weak, you would chop them off and thin them out. But I'm not really good at doing that, and I always find that the ones that I think are the strongest always end up being the weakest. I try to keep everything alive for as long as possible before I make that choice. But if you look at some of these cells, for example, there are 3 or 4 plants in a cell. They are going to need separating very soon. Now, in order for me to get the best growth from them, they're going to need to be in containers like this. This is like a 2 or 3 centimeter pot. The thing is if we start to put each of these plants into individual pots, they are going to take up a whole heap of space. There's roughly 20 to 30 plants in there. So I'm going to need 30 of these, and that is just the space that's going to be required just for these tomatoes. So once again, if you don't have the space to do all of this, you need to really think properly about what plants you are going to be sowing in February. Isn't it so frustrating going to the store and having to buy peppers and they come in this awful plastic? Well, in order to circumvent that, what you can do is you can start some pepper and chili seeds in February. I've actually sown some already, and they are just beginning to germinate. They are super quick to germinate, around about 5 days if you can get them on a warm windowsill. And it takes them a good couple of months to establish themselves, get good roots, and get some good growth. So you want to get them in as early as possible so that by the time summer comes, you can pop them out into their final containers, and that way you should be able to start getting fruit very early on in late spring, early summer. Another plant that I will be sowing in February is cucamelons. Cucamelons are absolutely amazing for container gardens. They're like a savory watermelon. They're very, very tiny, and like I said, absolutely perfect for us balcony and container gardeners. One of the fruits that I'm going to be sowing in February are melons, and I actually went ahead and sowed some in January just so I could show you what they look like now. I'm getting a head start with my melons this year. I didn't have very much success with melons last year, and that's because essentially I left them too late. I think I sowed them around about April. By the time that I put them out, the heat outside was so strong that it actually fried a whole load of my babies. What I've done this year, I've started some of these earlier so that when we do get out into, say, February, the plants should hopefully be strong enough to take the intense heat. If you're new to my channel, you may not know, but my balcony garden is 18 floors high, and what happens is, because of the glass railings, it magnifies the heat, and so it could be 10 degrees on ground level, but on my garden could potentially be up to 25 degrees, which means that sometimes there's such a big fluctuation in temperatures that my plants find it quite difficult to deal with. So by starting them a little bit earlier, they should have a more established root base, and that will make them stronger to be able to deal with all of the fluctuations in temperature. Now here I've got some strawberries. I've just posted a video on how to grow strawberries from seed and how to grow strawberries from bare roots. They do absolutely awesome in containers, but you want to get them started now, especially if you're growing from seed, because they take a long time to germinate, and then they take quite a bit of time to grow big enough to potentially fruit in their first year. Strawberries are perennial plants, so they don't always flower that first year. So if you want to get them to have fruit this year, your best bet is to start off in February so that they get big enough that you may get some fruit by the end of the year. But for more information on that, make sure you check out that video. Now, in my last two what to sow videos, I showed you the brassicas. So I showed you cabbage, kale, cauliflower and broccoli. I've got some outside on my cloud garden. I will do a video showing you how to start your brassicas shortly. I don't actually need them on my garden though, because I've got so many. However, you can still have some time to get those brassicas in. And if you haven't already, you can still sow some broad beans. Now, a flower that I'm going to be sowing in February is canna lilies. So I've not done this before, but I'm going to give it a go. I've got 2 or 3 pots of canna lilies outside on the cloud garden. They have been absolutely tremendous all year last year. They were just astonishing, and I didn't know whether I was going to cut them back for winter. I didn't have the heart to do it. I was going to bring them indoors, but I just didn't have enough space, so I ended up leaving them. They've gotten all ratty and tatty outside, so once the winds die down, I'm going to head out there, chuck them back and wait for the new shoots to pop up. So I'm really looking forward to that video. Now, speaking of lilies, that is the next flower that I'm going to start sowing. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be potting these into individual containers, letting them grow up before I decide on where their final spot is going to be on the cloud garden. But that whole process is going to start in February. Now, one plant that does fantastically well in containers and that I've had great success with on my balcony garden are salvias. I'm starting off with Salvia Blazing Red. With these salvias, once again, they've got quite a long germination period, so you're looking at round about 21 days. So you want to get those into February so that by the end of March you may be able to get some flowers. However, once again, just be mindful. In the UK, the frost date can vary between March and April. But having said that, salvias are quite hardy. So you may find that in your container garden, your salvias might be able to take frost. But again, it's something that you need to be acutely aware of. Now, the next flowers that I'm going to be sowing in February are gladioli. Now, these are absolutely fabulous. They are such beautiful plants and they are awesome in containers. And for what you get, especially if you buy a pack like this for £2.99, you get 10 bulbs, and these plants can grow up to a meter tall and give some stunning flowers. So I'm going to be succession sowing these throughout February. I'm going to sow 5 of these in Feb, and then a little bit further on in February, maybe even into March, I'll sow another 5. That way, once the flowers from the first batch have died off, I'll then have a second set ready to replace them. Now, the next flowers that I'm going to sow in February are Rudbeckia, and this Rudbeckia, I did not have very much luck with my bare root Rudbeckia plants last year. I know I haven't done a follow-up video to that one. I'm going to be doing one shortly, as well as sowing these new ones, and I'm going to show you some of the seeds that I've already planted as well. So look out for that video. Some more flowers that I'm going to be starting this February are Cosmos. Now, I've gone ahead and sown some for you just so that you can have a look at them now. And these, once again, are going to fall into that same category. With these Cosmos, I'm going to be keeping them indoors for as long as possible. They do not take well to frost. So although my garden is semi-protected from frost, I don't want to take any chances. As these get a bit bigger, I will then transfer them into the greenhouse outdoors, and once I'm certain that all chances of frost are gone, I will put them into their final places. I'm super excited to have a little burst of colour in the garden very late March. Well, I hope that this video has given you some new ideas for your container gardens. If you're going to try any of these, let me know in the comments below and let me know how everything goes. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. Hopefully I will see you all again soon. Bye! There's a link to a blog in the description box below, full of all my recommendations for some seeds. See you again soon!